Hello, in this video I have a game for you in my Kuma, which is still my favourite ship in this game by, well, not a big margin, but it's still clearly my favourite ship in this game. This game, well, the Kuma carries me through is probably the way to say it. I put myself in a bit of a bad situation, but the Kuma's got kind of the flexibility that, with a bit of luck, I'm able to get myself out of it. So I've spotted the enemy Kuma. I send a single shell its way, but the island takes a hit, so no damage done. Svetlana, we get a few shots that actually make it past the island, so we might get some hits there. You see I'm firing armor piercing. At the time I was playing this game, I was really keen on getting citadel hits on cruisers, which doesn't work out very well for me at this kind of ranges and these kind of angles, but broadside on and at closer ranges it's actually a pretty useful thing to do. Let's watch this broadside go out. Not quite going to get the hits. Oh no, got a hit on the Kuma, took out its rudder. And one more hit on the Svetlana, does nothing. Barely avoid hitting my allied Svetlana. And basically for now, I'm just zigzagging back and forth. I managed to switch to high explosive at some point because I've managed to start a fire. But back to armor piercing, doing a fair bit of damage. Not getting the citadel hits, which is what I really want to get here. It looks like that last broadside completely missed the Svetlana. And here's kind of where I start putting myself in a bad situation. Basically, my team have all turned around, they're heading the other way, and I'm continuing to sail in this direction. Basically, I thought I was mainly watching the enemy team rather than watching my own team. It looked to me like the Svetlana and the Kuma were running off, and well, there's a Cleveland showing up now and there's a Congo over there. But I thought we must have the numbers here, we'll just push through and it won't be that big a deal. The Cleveland is of course a problem, but there are 3 of our cruisers here, so we should be alright. Send a few shots over at the Kuma. The island took a few of them, but at this kind of angle, not great shots for armor piercing. I think of firing a few at the Kuma, not Kuma, the Cleveland. Decide it's worth it, even though again armor piercing is not going to do a lot of damage, but it turns broadside onto me, so I do 3,100. So I don't know, take those random shots occasionally. I finally kind of realised my team is heading the other way, so I swing my ship around to try and get in a position where they can support me. Because for right now, I'm basically about it. And again, I've managed to start a fire while firing armor piercing. I'm guessing that hasn't updated down the bottom, and I've actually probably been firing high explosive for a little while now. And that's a bit unfortunate, but replay bugs do happen. Anyway, that Cleveland's actually not having a good day. See, we've got a number of cruisers here and a battleship. And obviously we're all doing a very good job of focusing down that Cleveland. And well, someone's shooting at me, but the Cleveland's shooting in another direction, and the other two, the Kuma and the Svetlana, aren't, well, not shooting at anything really. And unfortunately I've reached my maximum range now, so I do a bit of a loop and start heading towards the enemy again. I've kind of got back into a position where my team can support me, but unfortunately those 2 cruisers are still heading the other direction, so when I start coming this way I'm just putting distance between myself and my support again. That Congo's a bit of a threat here, especially broadside on, but I'm pretty confident that I've got at least a few seconds before it can fire at me again, and Kuma's probably agile enough that I can dodge its shots as they come in, but regardless I decide to change my course. The Congo's under anti-aircraft or under aircraft attack there, and there's the Kuma. It's pretty broadside on, turns into my shells though, so they're going to go a little bit ahead of where I wanted them to, and actually they all miss. And I'm just not getting any hits. Well, unfortunately the Kuma's not getting any hits on me either. Oh, there we go, a little bit of damage. And as I said, heading in this direction I kind of isolated myself, which means that for now, well for a little while at least, I'm going to be the only one getting fired at by the enemy team. I managed to avoid most of those Cleveland shells, so it doesn't do a lot of damage. Send a broadside out at the Kuma. Doesn't do a lot of damage. Decide to focus on the Cleveland because I can theoretically knock it out of the game pretty quickly. It gets set on fire, I put that fire out, And I take big hits there. I think that was from the Cleveland. Must have been firing armor piercing right into my broadside there. And looking for an opportunity here to fire some torpedoes around the side of the island. The Kuma is within range. Actually, so is the Congo's just out of range. So fire 2 torpedoes off at the Kuma, and then I'm going to swing my ship around to make my other broadside ready to fire again. And waiting for the Kuma to pop round. It's not happening yet though. And I'm spotted. Basically that Congo's gone far enough around that it can actually see me now. But I'm bow onto it, so I'm not particularly concerned at the moment. It is within my torpedo range though. So I could fire torpedoes at it, but it's not a great shot with it angled so heavily against me, and at that kind of range it's probably going to outrun my torpedoes anyway. So I switch to high explosive. Send a broadside its way, and I get a couple of hits. And a few more hits and a fire. And here's the Kuma's come around the corner. I start swinging around to fire torpedoes at it, which is kind of dangerous. It does put me quite flat onto the Kuma. I also switch my guns to armor piercing while we're waiting. Fire off my 4 torpedoes, take a few hits. Unfortunately, this isn't really a good fight for me. That Kuma's got, well, it had twice hit points of me. It's probably now got closer to 3 times hit points of me. But Kumas do have a very vulnerable citadel, and there I just managed to do 8,000 damage to it with 1 broadside. Second broadside finishes it off. So that's what I'm saying. It's pretty powerful firing armor piercing at cruisers at close ranges, especially when they're broadside on like that. So the Congo again decide to fire a broadside of armor piercing at it while I switch to high explosive. And get a few hits. Don't do any damage. It is of course a battleship, well, battle cruiser, so it's still got thick enough armour to keep my shells out. And here's a Farragut, which kind of takes priority over the Congo, just because I can hurt the Farragut much more effectively than I can the Congo. It's in a smoke screen though, so I can't really see it, but it's fairly easy to guess where it is. So I get a couple more shots, but decide to go back to firing at the Congo, at least until we can spot that Farragut again. I should also mention that I've managed to get back in with my team now, so I'm not going to get focused down quite so badly as I was with that Cleveland and the Kuma. Even then it wasn't so much that they were focusing at me, it was that the Cleveland got in one quite lucky broadside. Well, luck's probably not a fair way to say it. It was a very well timed and accurately aimed broadside into me. It's done the bulk of the damage here, but it's made this game a lot more difficult for me. I lose about half of my remaining hit points in one broadside from that Congo. But I swing my ship back around. I'm going to try and keep doing as much damage to this Congo as I can. I've restarted one fire on it, which is burning nicely. And basically I'm just hoping to start a second one on the rear of the ship here. You can see the Congo's quite heavily damaged. My shells aren't going to be doing a lot of damage, but there's a second fire, actually 2 more fires. So the ship's burning on the rear 3/4. I swing my ship away from its shells, manage to avoid this return fire. And I decide that Congo's probably going to burn to death, and this Svetlana is actually a pretty big threat for me at the moment. As you see, it's shooting at me, it's got more hit points than me, and it can quite easily kill me. I managed to avoid most of its shells here, but I do take some damage. While my shells aren't quite going where I want them to. Probably a little bit high and maybe a little bit forward, so I adjust my aim slightly. Again, not quite where I want them. I'm at very low hit points now. Then we get 1 Citadel hit. And not quite enough to sink it, but my ally comes in and finishes off, which basically saves me there. Well, that last broadside missed, but I am on critically low health here. And there's the Congo. It's actually managed to put the fires out with a couple of hundred hit points left. But I send a single shell its way. And well, I miss. Wouldn't have been that good, but there we go. Managed to get the hit and the Arsonist medal because I did a lot of damage to that ship with my fires. And here's that Farragut from earlier, and now Farragut makes a bit of a misplay here. It decides to go after the battleship behind me, not realising that it could basically kill me in 1 or 2 hits here. And instead I'm able to just keep firing away at it. And I do basically the bulk of the damage against this Farragut as it comes in to attack my allied battleship here. And again, it's not, well, there's dodging, but not effectively, at least not at this ranges against rapid firing guns like mine. And I'm just able to keep whittling its health away. And it's not going to be much longer now, there we go. And that was actually basically game over. There's only 2 enemy ships left, and you can see one of them up there is about to die. And there's the enemy aircraft carrier behind it. So in this rest of this game, I'm just going to capture the base. So like I say, it wasn't a great game on my part. Kind of I made a mistake early on in that I went off without my team. Kind of twice actually, I went off without my team and I got focused a bit by the enemy. Fortunately I managed to avoid most of the enemy's fire most of the time, but I took that one massive salvo from the enemy Cleveland, which kind of really limited my ability to play this ship aggressively. But I would say that the Kuma still plays pretty good defensively, and especially firing armour piercing against those cruisers. There were kind of 2 engagements there, one against the Kuma, one against the Svetlana, where if you're looking at the hit points, looking at the ships involved, you'd say I would have to have lost those engagements. But I was firing armour piercing at close ranges, at enemy cruisers broadside onto me, and they weren't doing the same to me, which enabled me to manage to sink those 2 enemy ships, and then go on to sink that Farragut at the end, which I'm assuming probably did a lot to help that battleship out. If the Farragut had lived, it could have possibly won the game, but I just got really lucky in the end, to be honest, that it didn't shoot at me and instead focused on the battleship. But if it had have sunk me, it probably could have then gone on to quite easily sink the battleship. The point situation would look completely different. It could have captured D without any real interference. Probably not enough to win the game though, but it would have made it a lot closer than, well, the score you see here. Currently 915 to 371, but I don't think that aircraft carrier is going to live very much longer. So that was the game. As you tell, quite a solid victory, 3000 experience, the Arsonist medal. Only got 98 hits with my guns, but that's not counting the 6 Citadel hits, and of course each Citadel hit does a lot of damage, and 7 fires, which between them also do a lot of damage. Came top of my team, 2056 base experience. Not top in kills though, that goes to a Fuso. Also didn't shoot down any aircraft, but I don't think I really saw any enemy aircraft. You see here, didn't get any torpedoes on targets. I still very rarely use my torpedoes in the ship. I did fire a few, and basically 31,000 damage armour piercing, 30,000 from fires, and a little bit on top of that from high explosive to get just a general all-round game. Just a general all-round balanced game of the Kuma, and that's kind of why I like the ship. It's very balanced, and basically any situation you're in, you can do something against the enemy. There's no situation that really feels like it's hopeless, except for possibly going up against a tier 6 cruiser like a Cleveland or a Nuremberg. That's a bit painful, but other than that, the Kuma can basically carry you through any engagement. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all next time.